Recording in progress.
Craig, and thank you. I gotta start over now. No, I'm not going to. Many of our members have benefited from Scott and Craig's support, so we're honored to have them here today to share their knowledge with us. A little bit about Scott. Scott's mom, Craig's wife, Sarah, worked at the Lake County Board of Developmental Disabilities. Hearing about her work as he grew up and meeting some of the people she helped had a significant impact on his childhood. It opened his eyes up to the fact that there's always people who need help and organizations who do the great, sometimes unrecognized work of helping them. Blitz is his opportunity to give back, even if only a small way, to a community that he has long felt passionately about. Craig, his first exposure to the work that now fills his days was in college, doing student teaching, designing recreation programs for children with developmental disabilities. In 1999, Craig founded Blitz to help small businesses and nonprofits with marketing and the web. 5 years ago, they were approached by a local provider wanting help. Working together with them, they saw big opportunities for them to find and keep the DSPs they needed. He loves working with people with passion about their mission, and it's rewarding to work exclusively with IDD providers. They have written a book, publication expected, well, is now out there, to highlight the achievements of DSPs and people they serve and provide help for providers. And their book is really excellent. I've read it, and it's a great look at our work and what's important about our work. So please welcome Scott and Craig.
Thanks, Pete. I want to start off by being really candid with everyone here. Honestly, Pete mentioned 5 years ago we embarked on this journey. This was nothing Craig and I had a master plan about. No expectation of being here and doing this incredible work and meeting all of you amazing people. Because 5 years ago, to take you inside that more, I didn't see a path forward. We were completely burned out, stressed out, overworked, and overwhelmed. And even better yet, no clear idea of what to do to change our situation. But things did change, as Pete mentioned, when a local provider found us. And we got to know them by asking questions. And as soon as I asked the one question I asked every new client, what's your greatest challenge? You know the answer. It was immediate, no hesitation. We need more DSPs. Okay, so cool. Give me the secret decoder ring. What's a DSP? From my mom's work, we knew there were lots of acronyms in this field, but we had no idea what was coming. And the more we talked to them and heard about limitations, the more opportunities that we saw, and it energized us. And that's what we wanted. Craig and I knew one thing for certain in that moment 5 years ago. We wanted to work with more amazing people like these, people that gave us energy and were passionate about their work. So that's what set us off on this journey. Everything that we're going to talk about today is inspired by you. You do amazing work to serve and support people each and every day. Other people look at the people you serve and support and see only limitations where you see opportunities. So this is where I need your help. This is going to be interactive. I want to hear from you. I want to feel the feeling in this room. Are you just exhausted and fed up with focusing on the limitations? It's not easy to get staff. I know it. The pay, less than ideal. We've heard that a few thousand times. You're tired of people ghosting, not showing up, not passing background checks, not taking initiative at work. Have you had enough of that? This is where you say something. Okay. Are you ready for a better path forward? A path where you actually can find people, where it's no longer you saying, how on earth, Craig and Scott, do we compete with other employers? Other employers are saying, how do we compete with them? We can't do that. You can find more amazing people. Are you ready for that? All right, excellent, because that's what we have for you today. So, clicker. This is where I would like to advance to the next slide, and technology is defeating us. So let me manage expectations here. Today, is not about me and Craig standing up here being delusional and telling you your job's really easy, how to do it. You magically have 30 hours in your day. You don't have enough to do already. We know you're overworked. So this is not about making life harder on you. It's about showing you opportunities to take all of the incredible effort you're already putting in and just modify your approach so that you get more out of your effort. So this is not about more work. What this is about is showing you the path. I would love to be able to teach you in the next 45 minutes or so how to do everything we're going to cover together. That's impossible. It'd be downright delusional. However, the most valuable thing that Craig and I can do for you is to highlight the path and show you all the opportunities that are in front of you. We focus so much time, energy, and effort on the limitations. And yes, they are not great, but there are so many opportunities. And the best news possible for all of you, you have all of the skills you already need to do everything we're going to talk about. You have an advantage over everyone else in this area. So when you take this approach, you can do this by focusing on the opportunities. It's going to help you escape the DSP hamster wheel. You know, you live it each and every day, the vicious cycle of got to find people, got to get them, got to keep them, and just doesn't happen that way. So how can we escape the DSP hamster wheel? You know, what do? We try and get more people. Well, Indeed's coming at us left and right. You know, hey, Natasha, Michelle, for a mere $10,000, you can upgrade to this package. You've all heard that spiel from Indeed. They know everybody's hurting. And sometimes in a moment of weakness, like, well, let's throw some money in that Indeed slot machine, pull the handle and see what happens. No such luck so often. We keep getting the same poor applicants and we keep using hope as a strategy. Hope this candidate shows up, they're qualified and maybe halfway capable. Let's roll the dice. That's no fun either. And finally, you can do this without having a magic wand in your back pocket. And if somebody does, please let us know, to magically increase the pay. It is possible. And
I want to talk about what the biggest problem is. If I asked you all what the biggest problem is right now, your biggest obstacle, what do you say? Exactly, it's not. I maintain your biggest obstacle lies between your ears. Look at what we just heard from John Register. There was no magic formula for him to grow a new leg. You have no magic formula to suddenly double the pay of DSPs, which is what they deserve. So I want to talk to you about leadership, and no, executive directors, I'm not putting more on your table because leadership is not a title. How many of you had, notice I said had because I don't want to embarrass anyone. How many of you ever had a boss who was really horrible? Come on, show of hands. Exactly. One of my first jobs, the vice president would come to us on Friday and say, okay, we're behind in production. We got to work on Saturday. There'd be, oh man. He said, don't worry, I will be there right with you. Saturday came. Do you think he was there? No. Worse, Monday morning, he'd come in, he'd come down to the shop, he'd look around and said, you guys didn't get much done for a Saturday. That was not a leader. Fortunately, there was someone on my team who they were the leader. No title, but anytime somebody had a question, that's the person they would go to. So this comes from a mentor of ours, Brad Martineau, who is a genius at communication marketing. He's helped people like Damon Johns of Shark Tank, Dave Ramsey, the guy who has the radio show on financial affairs. But Brad loves helping small entrepreneurs realize their full potential. And he talks about leadership as what you do when you interact with anyone. And Brad loves to simplify things to a very basic system. So he's come up with the leadership formula. At the base of this, the foundation is our current outcome. And our current outcome is the sum of the circumstances. You all know too well what the circumstances are right now. Plus your interaction, plus if you're in a team environment, others. So the question becomes, how do we move from the current outcome, which we're all facing right now, to a desired outcome? Using Brad's formula, the desired outcome, we still have the circumstances. We can moan and groan about them, but the circumstances are what they are. We don't have that magic wand. But That should not be the obstacle. It wasn't the obstacle for John Register. So let's look at ourselves. You, your vision, your plan, your actions. Those are all determined by what we call your programming or your experience. What you learned as a child, what you learned in school, what you learned last week, hopefully something that you will learn today and tomorrow. And we all have this programming, and it manifests itself in our language and our behavior and can be very self-limiting. For example, Scott was helping my grandson Spencer a couple of weeks ago with his math homework. And Spencer was getting really frustrated. He said, "I'm bad at math."
This happened again yesterday too.
Spencer's in an advanced math program. So clearly he's not bad at math. But when he says, "I'm bad at math," he's giving himself an excuse not to do anything about it. When we say, we can't compete with others, the pay and everything else, we are giving ourselves an excuse. What are we going to do? Close our doors? I don't think so. So we would caution you to watch your language and behavior because it limits the capacity and size of your vision, your plans, and your actions. So that is going to affect you. Imagine if John had just said, "I lost my leg, my life's over." We wouldn't have heard his inspiring story today. The fact that people can adapt to awfully traumatic circumstances. So if you want to change your outcome, please listen to yourself, pay attention. Don't be, "I'm bad at math. We can't compete because of the pay," things like that. You've got to change, you can't change the circumstances, but you can change your own programming. And that's self-leadership, which is something that John mentioned. Beyond that, when you're working in a team environment, we need the enrollment or buy-in of others to help support us. So if you're not getting your desired outcome, either it's your own self-programming that's limiting you, or you're not getting others to choose to accept your vision. And that their acceptance has to be conscious, informed, and willing. Sure, Michelle could tell her team, "Hey, you're going to do this. You must do this." That isn't going to get buy-in. We can't manipulate or use carrots and sticks to get somebody. We want them to be on board willingly. And when they're on willingly, then you have others who buy in, you constantly upgrade your programming. The circumstances are the circumstances, but you will move toward your desired outcome. And that's what we're going to talk about more specifically.
So what all of you are working to do each and every day is pretty simple on the surface. You want to find more amazing direct support professionals, correct? Correct? Okay.
If not, we're in the
Just
wrong
checking.
place.
Sorry, wrong room. You're looking to get them and then keep them. It sounds simple, but you know this reality is anything but easy. So let's take a look at the current circumstances. So we've got a pool of candidates over here, and for the sake of my little diagram, the orange people icons are the people that are an ideal fit. They're out there, I promise you. And all too often what I'm hearing is, "No, Scott, this isn't so much a pool these days. It's like a little plastic cheap kiddie pool that's like half full, a half an inch of water." Well, still, there are candidates out there. You're sorting through them. You pick out some resumes, cross your fingers, reach out, get ghosted by some right away. They never respond after applying. You interview some, you don't ultimately hire everyone. And then here's where the mind trash already creeps in. We're holding ourselves back. "Hey, Scott, Craig, we hired 4 people. Great news. Congratulations. Really excited for you." 3 of them probably won't be here next month. All right, less than ideal, but that does leave us, if my math is right here, 1 person who is stepping up, taking initiative, their potential all-star, covering shifts, working with passion. But what happens so often? You see it each and every day. Conflict with coworkers, supervisors, personal crisis unfortunately comes up in their life. And then they're out the door and we're right back to where we started. And suddenly, wait a minute, find, get, keep should have been this linear process. Now it has become this vicious cycle. And find, get, keep should not be a vicious cycle for all of us. But this is the reality. You know it. These are the circumstances. So why is it? The reality is we're missing words when we talk about this. We're hoping to find people, we're getting ghosted, and we keep losing them. It's exhausting. This is why you are working so incredibly hard, harder than ever, and you feel like you're getting nowhere. This is what we've called and branded the hamster wheel. It's no fun being stuck on it. So how do we get off this hamster wheel? By creating what we call the DSP magnet. All right, I promise you, not a trick question. Can I get a little help here? What does a magnet do? It attracts, perfect. And then once it attracts something, what does it do next? Okay, and then for things that it does not attract, either just leaves them alone or pushes them away, which is exactly what I want you to do to start with in your recruiting. Not everyone is meant for this work. You get it. And that's not a bad thing. So we want to attract people like a magnet, hold on to the right ones, and push away the people that aren't a fit. So when we take this approach, when we change how we approach it, how we think about it, our visions, our plan, and our actions, things start to change for us. And there are providers out there right now doing this. And we've got some stories from them coming up here. You naturally start to pull more of the right candidates to you. It's easier to engage with them, to get them to show up, to get ghosted less often, to hire more of the right people and ultimately keep more of them. And you're like, Scott, that sounds super simple. Yes, I'm starting off high level so that we all get on the same page. And there's this tension. We have the hamster wheel that we exist in right now. You're painting this like idealistic, perfect future vision of the DSP magnet. Scott, maybe you haven't heard. Pay kind of stinks. Yes, we've heard. So how do we get from one to the other? We cannot change the circumstances, but as Craig talked about a moment ago, we can change how we think about it. We can upgrade our own programming, our vision, our plans, and our actions. This presentation is all about giving you a better vision to go forward with and take action. So if you've heard us talk in the last 4 years, you've heard us talk about this, and we will continue to talk about it until it goes away. This is some of the bad programming that we've got holding us back. It's called the McDonald's mindset. When we first started interviewing providers, it was like, oh my gosh, is there some script out there that's floating around that you're told to read from? Phone conversations. This is what we heard. Guys, we're competing with McDonald's. The pay is about the same, but here you have to be responsible for someone's life. Okay, so I get it. The pay is not what it should be. However, let's, again, audience participation, show of hands, who got into this work because it's going to be super easy and my God, I'm going to get rich doing it.
Okay, Brandy, put your hand down.
Jamie, Lisa, Natasha. Okay, just making sure people are paying attention. So clearly there's something else that has drawn you and kept you around here. More than money. You know it in your heart and in your minds, yet our words so often come out as this garbage. It's holding us back. And yes, I am 100% with you. We should be advocating to the powers that be that the compensation needs to be better than what it is right now. However, every other conversation that this pops into internally or with the general public is holding us back from your potential and all the opportunities in front of you. It's holding us back. Why? Because you know it to be untrue in your heart. You're not here to get rich. And I have talked to hundreds of your DSPs. Never once have they said, I have to be responsible for someone's life. This is something they get to do. They love to do. They talk about all the amazing parts of their job. They don't talk about the less glamorous things. Yeah, sometimes things are less than ideal, but we get through it. We're a family here. We do this, that. They rave about things. They always turn the conversation around. They look at this as an opportunity, not a burden, some heavy obligation that they have to do. It's not like I have to pay my taxes. They don't look at it that way. So I am confident there are more amazing people beyond this room that their heart and mind would draw them to this work if we would send a different message to the world and talk about this work differently. Good news, and I've already shown you the tip of the iceberg here, you do have a superpower, and the superpower is the antidote to overcoming the McDonald's mindset. Radical concept for this field, so bear with me for a moment. Being person-centered. Now, what on earth do I mean by this? You have every opportunity and advantage with how you approach and serve and support individuals each and every day. If we extend that to applicant-centered recruiting and employee-centered retention, things will change for you. and they've changed for other providers for the better. So McDonald's mindset, that programming that we have constantly running through our heads in every conversation, is holding us back. It's keeping us trapped on the hamster wheel. When we focus on that limitation, we keep getting the same outcome. When we serve and support an individual, we don't dwell on, oh my gosh, this guy has all these limitations. No, they are what they are. We get to know the person. How can we support them? We get creative. Same here. Let's stop focusing on the limitations of the pay. Yes, it should be better. Yes, I wish it was double or triple or even more, but that's not going to change things. None of us have the magic wand. Taking a person-centered perspective, which as John Register talked about, it starts with each and every one of us. You deciding to take action and taking the person-centered approach creates the DSP magnet.
All right, so let's talk about how you're going to find these great people, how you're going to start filling these open positions. We just said, we're competing with pay. Newsflash, there will always be someone out there who pays more than you do. Let me ask you another question. If Scott and I offer you a job today, double your salary, but it's hard work and we're not going to treat you very nice. How many takers? Anybody? So apparently you're not motivated by money. Why do we assume that money is the sole motivation? How many of you have DSPs who, despite the pay, have been with you 10, 20, 30 years and wouldn't think of doing anything else? Show of hands, come on. All right. Everyone is hiring right now. Yeah, again, that's a circumstance. I can't control that. I'm not worried about everybody. The others can hire the people who aren't suited for this work. We're looking for something different. We need more people. No, you need more of the right people. And that is the key. I mean, I know some of you are desperate. We hear these stories. Hey, some days we'll hire anyone who can pass the background check and shows up with a pulse. Felt that? Any of you? All right. Imagine if you had a consistent source for the right people. Sounds too good to be true, right? Brandy sitting over there in the corner, probably not paying attention. I saw you looking at your... In March, before the world shut down last year, she said, I can't believe I'm about to say this. I have more applicants than I know what to do with. Okay, that's pre-pandemic, right? Different world right now. About 5 or 6 weeks ago, in a Zoom meeting with a bunch of other providers, she held up a whole stack of applications saying, I have more qualified applicants than I can place. Now, Brandy is really good, but she does not have a magic wand or some hidden superpower that you can't do yourself. Again, it's person-centered perspective. And what Brandy understands is she has adopted what we call the DSP cloning machine. Okay, I'll admit it, Scott and I didn't invent a cloning machine. Our DSP cloning machine, though, is a system, a process that you can use to attract the right people consistently over time. The first thing I'd like you to do, person-centered. I want everyone here to think of your best DSP, that DSP that you would love to clone. You would do anything to clone them. Maybe you have several, that's fine. Think of those people. Think of their name. I don't want a generic, oh, well, I'd like to have this or something like, no, I would love to clone Kenny or Natasha or Jill or Judy or whomever. Think of them. Then I want you to think further. What motivates them? What makes them so special? Specifically, what type of person are they? Are they married? Do they have children? Do they have a connection to this field? What is it? Maybe you don't know. We're going to help you with that, though. Then most importantly, what do they get to do? And I want you to keep that in mind. What do we get to do? Every time I look at a job post, it has nothing about what these people get to do. It talks about what we have to do. Must lift 50 pounds, must do incredible documentation, must handle aspects of personal hygiene. Doesn't sound too interesting. The worst job posts I've seen in 5 years. 31 bullet points of what I have to do, including number 26, must be financially responsible for expenses on outings with clients. So you're gonna pay me 12 bucks an hour and anything we do on an outing is on my nickel? I don't think so. Now, what they meant was keep records to get the expenses reimbursed, but how would you read that? Does anyone want that job? But what about the things people get to do? We've heard stories from DSPs. My friends can't believe I get paid to go to the park, to go to the Rock Hall of Fame, to go to an Ohio State game, to go to Disney World, Vegas. We hear all sorts of great stories. So what do they get to do? And if you don't know the answers to that question, I'm going to ask that sometime today for 5 minutes, what I want you to do is think of that person that you want to clone and either call them or text them, or at least set up an appointment to talk to them saying, I want to get more great DSPs just like you. And one of the questions to ask them is, tell me about your best day on the job. What makes you go home maybe tired but energized? Pete mentioned our book. At the start, under every new chapter, we have a quote from our actual DSP interviews. They are like 1 or 2 sentences long. Every one of them could be put into a job post so that people with the same mindset, the same passion for helping others will look at this and say, wow, I want that job. Scott's very first interview, when he asked the DSP, tell me about your best day on the job. She said, oh, that's simple. My first day back from vacation. Scott said, whoa, wait a minute. I love what I do, have my own business, but first day back from vacation, not my best. Unpack that for me. She said, well, it's simple. All my ladies are so happy to see me. I get smiles and hugs and they want to hear everything about my trip. That's a 1 or 2 sentence quote that could go into a job post. So why are our job posts loaded with things that they have to do and we never talk about what they get to do? When we talk about what they get to do, we're going to attract more. Then, when you have that conversation with that DSP, please ask them, do you know one person like you who might be interested in this work? Not a list, one person.
All right, I'm going to interrupt you for just a minute here because what Craig just said is so important, it's worth repeating. So anyone here that is texting or emailing the office, this is the point at which you're going to want to grab a piece of paper or open up your note app and write this down. Because if you listen closely, you can get free employees or pay out, some referral bonuses, which I'm sure you would be happy to do by writing this down and spending 5 to 10 minutes taking this one action today.
And then if you want the advanced action to take tomorrow, think about those former DSPs who left under good circumstances. Reach out to them, because I bet they haven't thought about how much they enjoyed the work. They haven't thought about sharing that with their friends. Offer them the same referral bonus that you would to somebody on your staff. I had somebody in the Columbus area do that earlier this year. He called 5 former staff. 2 of them said, wait a minute, can I come back? So instant win.
So think after this, to repeat it, I want to hammer this home because I don't want you to miss this value Craig shared. Think of that person that you would clone, that you wrote down or you thought of. Go to them today. For some of them, you might need to put them at ease, like, hey, I promise you're not in trouble. I'm not going to ask you to do more work. Authentically thank them specifically for being an amazing part of the team. I was at this conference. These guys were talking about a cloning machine. And if we could clone people, you were the person that I thought of. I wrote down your name. I'm so grateful for you. I would love to have more people just like you. Could you think of one person that'd be a perfect fit for our team? If you ask that question, good things will happen.
Then start thinking about where could you find more people like these? And Scott and I keep talking about stories and quotes from DSPs and what they get to do. The problem is, if we go to a school, a guidance counselor, an academic advisor to a community college, something like that, again, we talk about what we do. Do you really think that when somebody comes into the office and says, oh, I'm kind of lost, I'm not sure what I want to do, and some, they're going to think back, oh, I heard about this job where you have to lift 50 pounds, you have to do a lot of documentation, and you're responsible for personal hygiene. No, but if you've shared a story from that DSP you're going to talk to later today, I say, yeah, I heard about this job where the best day was the first day back from vacation, things like that. People remember stories. You all have great stories. I mean, they can be as simple as somebody achieving an hour of independence when they've required 24/7 care, or to a young man with Down syndrome who's now in business with his father designing crazy socks. You got yours on today?
I got some crazy socks
We
on today.
both have crazy socks on today. John's Crazy Socks, $4 million a year business that hires 21 people of differing abilities. You have stories like that. If you share those stories with other people, they will start referring people to you. They'll start sending people your way.
So once you've taken the DSP cloning machine and gotten crystal clear on the person you want to attract, being person-centered, who you want to recruit, obviously you want to get them in the door. You want them to show up for that interview. You want them to stay engaged through that hiring process, ultimately show up for onboarding and training and orientation, all that good things. So where do we start? Man, Scott, Craig, people are ghosting us and they think it's okay. Well, there's a flip side to that I'll get to in a moment. You know what? They're rude. And even better yet, you know what? They've done me a favor. They wouldn't have been good employees. That is the story that we tell ourselves. Yes, sometimes, candidly, it is true. Plenty of the time, it is not. So what if people not only showed up, as they said they would, came to those interviews, came to onboarding orientation, but they showed up excited to do so? Again, you're like, God, Scott is delusional today. Promise you I'm not. This came from a workshop that Craig did, what, like 4 weeks ago? Three weeks ago. I've had a dramatic reduction in ghosting. In September, she was in the workshop with me. We talked about ghosting. She took action, committed to doing things, taking this approach, and this is what happened. They were being ghosted 10 to 15 times per week, down to 2 or 3. Had a conversation with some other providers. This is not an isolated incident. I share these things to show you, to prove to you that they are possible. These are providers facing all the same circumstances as you. And there are a few people in this room that can attest to what I'm about to share. We had 11 people show up as promised to orientation. Then the next, I was like ready to end the call there. Like we were 2 minutes into the Zoom. I'm like, I cannot beat that. Thank you very much. I'm going to go home now. Next provider jumped in. They're like, Scott, I know we talked about ghosting last month and they were really fighting it. Like this poor HR recruiter stepped into this job and was like put into the firestorm. People ghosting left and right. She talked with us, took action on what I'm about to share. She's like, Scott, today, first day of training and orientation. I'm like, okay, 8 out of 8. It's possible. You will never eliminate ghosting, but it is possible. That's why I share these. How do you do this? You create what we call the anti-ghosting system. There are 2 components of this because obviously we want to prevent ghosting. In system, I very intentionally have there because I want this to be simple, easy, and repeatable for you. I don't want to add more work to your workload. So let's take a look at and get very clear on why ghosting actually happens. So, person-centered perspective, this is your advantage again. Imagine that all of you are looking for a job today. If you want a DSP job, you have no shortage of opportunities. Good news for you, or any other job for that matter, because you know everybody's hiring. You see all the signs. So what do? You go online, you start applying for jobs, and then what you will find is you will start waiting. So this is what drives the behavior that you see. Anybody in here have people that apply 2 times, 3 times, 6 times, 8 times, 13? You're like, oh my God, get a clue. Well, they don't remember that they've applied 12 prior times to this. Why don't they? Because they have been forced into the numbers game. Because unfortunately for you, you are paying the price of the bad behavior of other employers. Other employers are ghosting them. They are setting the standard that ghosting is okay, so why shouldn't ghosting be okay for them to do employers? I'm sorry, it's less than ideal circumstances, but if we want to change things, it's time to change our programming and how we think about this and approach it. So clear on why it's happening, because others are setting the standard that it's okay for them to be ghosted, so they're going to do it in return. Let's look at where those people are vanishing. So we've got a hiring process. Yours may look something like this, maybe a little bit different, more steps, different order, but fundamentally we all start with an application and we get them to hiring, welcome to our team. And what do? We have checklists, rules, regulations, things that we have to follow that are a job because we're professionals. So we focus on those events themselves. And people should just move from point A to point Z. It should just magically happen. Well, it's really easy to overlook because we're focusing all of our attention on the boxes. That ghosting happens in between. Those arrows are easy to overlook. Because what do those arrows signify? They signify time. Time is passing. Life is happening for them. They're hearing back from other employers or not hearing back from other employers. Doubts are creeping in. Life is happening. Cars are breaking down. Childcare is falling through for them. Things are getting in their way. So what I would encourage all of you to do, once again, this is where you're going to want to grab your pen and paper, draw the boxes, map out, write down your hiring process, and leave space for those arrows and fill in between those the number of days that pass between steps. And I know you're not in control of all of them. Real sorry about the background check like situation that I've been hearing about. I can't control it, much like the pay. But there are opportunities for how you can pull people like a magnet, attract them, pull them through this process. And it starts with identifying how many days pass between these events. Why? Because the trend that Craig and I see over and over and over again in workshops with hundreds of providers is speed kills. Case in point. I was doing a workshop for a provider that was spread out across the state. They were like, hey, can we have our 25 frontline supervisors that are in charge of hiring attend this workshop? Cool, sure, no problem. Now, when they came, some providers were talking about, they were focusing on this, getting ghosted right away. The person applies, try and reach out to them, get a phone screen, nothing, they're gone. What's going on? And then one voice speaks up. She's like, no, I'm not having a problem with that. And it's like you could hear a pin drop suddenly. Everyone's like, wait, what? What are you doing? She's like, well, I'm responding to people within 24 hours. Not rocket science. She's like, I've just been to a couple of Craig and Scott's workshops on this before. And other people in the room had been to those same workshops. The difference was she changed her mental approach and changed her actions.
Brandy, how long do you take to respond if you can? What's your goal? 10 minutes.
And just to confirm, you do have a life and other obligations, right? So people facing the same challenges as you are changing things. And when they respond quickly, they're getting in touch with applicants. And somebody recently said to Craig, well, wait a minute, we don't want to come across as desperate.
Yeah, I was told that in Delaware at a conference Friday. It's like,
and when I was in Wisconsin, somebody was like, hey, we saw a job post that said desperately hiring. Please don't say desperately hiring. That sounds bad. That's not a good thing. But no, when you respond to them quickly, you're going to stand out in their mind. You're going to show them that you want them. You're interacting with them. You're somebody different. Like, oh my God, this person responded. Holy cow. Because in talking to candidates, they're waiting 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months, 3 months, all over the board, despite the fact everyone's saying they're hiring. I mean, look at these two processes. Employer A on top, employer B on the bottom. Where do you think you would prefer to be hired? You know, nothing else. They're already getting these 80% of the way there while you're still waiting for an interview with the other one. This is an advantage if you take it, if you respond and engage with people. Now, it's not just enough to be fast. We don't want to reach out with cold automated messages that are impersonal, because all the best people you're after are warm, engaging, and very personal. Communicating and doing so with empathy will result in success. Engaging with them differently. Doing a workshop yesterday, a woman was feeling the pressure of, well, I've got to be professional. I've got to have a very professional and polished message to candidates because my bosses have told me I must do this. And then when we started talking about things, communicating with empathy and personality, she's like, wait, I can use emojis. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting the vibe that that's cool from you and that's how you normally interact with people. You have that warmth, that energy, go for it. Because nobody else is going to be engaging with them with a personality. We've seen messages from providers out there that, no joke, thank you very much for your application. We are interested in considering you for further consideration. You must be available between business hours of 8 to 4. Ooh, I feel all warm and fuzzy inside. This
Write
place
that
feels
down
right.
for your next Hallmark card.
Yeah. It's not just enough to communicate quickly. We want to do so with empathy. And then as you look at those arrows, I want you to document version 1 of your system. So we focus all this time, energy, and attention on the boxes. It's time to reduce ghosting by focusing on those arrows in between. How are we engaging and interacting with that candidate while time passes? Sometimes it is quick, it's just a day. Other times, yeah, it's like, oh my God, we're waiting on that background check still. Send them a text message because they're telling themselves stories too. Like, oh, I think I really blew that, interview with Lisa. I think I should just go. I should accept this other job, even though I really want it there. I think I blew it there. They're telling themselves stories while time is passing. So if you reach out to them with empathy and like, hey, I promise you, I have not forgotten you. Just wanted to let you know, I'm super sorry. We're still waiting on that background check from the state. You know how it is with government. Come alongside them. That's your opportunity if you document that to reduce ghosting.
Obviously, once you've found them and gotten them, it's really important that we keep them. Once again, the McDonald's mind trash. They'll just leave for more money. I didn't get any takers when I offered you that job at double your current pay, right? Again, it's a circumstance. We can't control it. Odds are if they're worried about the pay, they're not a good fit for you, or you're missing some opportunities to have them see beyond the pay. Oh, this generation. I'm probably the oldest person in this room. I am a boomer. I can remember my father saying, oh, this younger generation of yours. It's probably been something uttered by parents for every generation since time began. And again, even if the current generation, it was built on participation trophies and sort of feel like, hey, I showed up for work, I did my job. Have any of those? They are our available workforce. So let's work with them. The good news is you're already skilled at helping people who have real challenges in life, and you help them live the best life possible. So why can't we train up our workforce? The other one we just really love. Oh, they'll never. They don't know how to cook. They don't know how to clean. They'll never be able. If Scott and I come in, see one of the individuals you support and say, oh, that person will never do this, never do. You would jump down our throat, and rightly so, because you know what is possible. You know that the only limitation is the ones that we self-impose, that people can achieve great things with the proper support. So, if they don't know how to cook, we had somebody in a workshop who said, I have to teach them how to make instant mashed potatoes, where all they have to do is grab the box of the powder and put it in boiling water or milk. And I said, great. I said, you want to take it a step further? What's that resident's favorite meal? She's spaghetti. I said, teach that new DSP how to make spaghetti. They will be an instant hero in that home. And the feedback they get, they will feel so empowered and so excited. They'll be anxious to take on new responsibilities, learn new things. So imagine for a moment that your organization is such that the employees would never dream of leaving. Doesn't matter about the pay, but they love their work. They love the team. They love everything about it. One step toward that, well, first, again, little proof here, again, going back to our friends at Licking County, we did a series of workshops with their providers. Their turnover dropped 40%, and the retention measured as first 6 months went up to 83%. So this can work. And a key to it is a success coach. Now that success coach, I'll talk about where you can find that person soon, but think about it. One thing as a starting point is, whoops, too quick on the clicker here. One thing a success coach can do is build a DSP ISP. It's like, oh, Craig, Scott, do you realize what goes into an ISP?
They promised they wouldn't give us more work. Here they are giving us more work.
Yeah.
Promise you. we're not.
We're not talking about a detailed ISP that you have for the people you support. What we're talking about is think about the things that maybe if you could improve, make a 20% change, it would impact 80% of your people. What are some of the common things that you face with your DSPs or new hires in particular? Transportation, childcare, enough money to get to the first paycheck, things like that. And what if too, what about just that feeling of appreciation, support, knowing someone has their back? Was there ever a time in your own career where you're feeling low and questioning whether or not you should be doing this, and somebody, not a supervisor, but just somebody came alongside and gave you support and gave you that glimmer of hope when you needed it? That can be so powerful. That's what we're talking about, employee-centered supports. It doesn't have to be a cash reward program, doesn't have to be a gift card. Just again, somebody who they know is going to come out and be proactive to tell them, hey, we've got you. Look, we understand this is struggling. If you're struggling with something, what can we do better? How can I help you? We already give that kind of support to the people we serve. It should be very easy to do it with those on our teams. It doesn't involve a fancy program. It can be as simple as coming up and getting to know them. Just as you interact with the people you support, you find out what they like, they don't like, what their dreams, what their hopes are. You can do the same, have a simple conversation. Don't ask the question that Scott and I hate, and those of you who've been in our workshops or before. We hate the question, how are you? Because everybody says, good, fine, okay. You really don't want to know. Instead, what's the best thing that's happened to you in the last week or since we last talked? Personally, at work, whatever, it doesn't have to be earth-shattering. Just what's the best thing? Start building that relationship, because then they're going to be more comfortable sharing their concerns and where they need help. So once you've come alongside them, develop that relationship, now you can ask them, okay, what are you struggling with? What can I help you with? Make sense? Then think about, what does a better future look like? What would it be like if you had people that stay, and not only stay, but thrive, and start telling other people in your community about the work they get to do, being repetitious, how wonderful it is to work your organization. Those people become recruiters on your behalf. I've shared this tip. I know some of you heard it. I think one organization took advantage of it. If you have t-shirts that you give out to your staff, please don't just give them a t-shirt with your logo on it. Give them a t-shirt that says, I'm a DSP. Ask me what I get to do. Because we're dealing with a profession that nobody's ever heard of. So just an idea. Now, okay, geez, you guys promised us no work, but where are we going to find a success coach? You may already have that person. Perhaps you have a DSP who's getting a little bit older, getting to the point where maybe they can no longer handle some of the physical aspects of the work, but they don't want to lose that connection with the people that have become their second family and the rest of the people in your organization. Wouldn't they be an ideal success coach? So you may already have one. In that workshop where Carly gave us the quote about reducing ghosting, when I talked about this with her, she said, I'm so excited. I've got 2 names right now. We've been wondering how are we going to replace them, and said, we'll still have to replace them, but now I've got something where they can stay and they can help our next generation of DSPs. So she was ready, as soon as she was out of the workshop, she was going to call these people and set up a meeting with them to find out what they might want to do for their future. And then the most important thing, when you have found that person to act as your success coach, chief heart officer, mentor, whatever title you want to give them, please encourage them to do this consistently, to go out, get to know every DSP. You know, they can get a different reaction than, you know, if the boss comes, it's like, you sort of have that reaction of, uh-oh, am I in trouble? Unless you're a boss like Michelle, who takes direct care shifts regularly so that they know, Michelle's just down here to work. So think about the consistency, how important it is for that success coach, that chief heart officer, to regularly engage and support people so that they know, man, this organization has our back. They care about us.
I know we've thrown a lot at you, but I promise you, you can do this, and I'm going to show you why you can. So, show of hands, please do, please raise your hands. How many people in here are person-centered with the work that they do?
Higher.
Yeah, let me see them. Okay, this like should be everyone, real easy. Now keep them up. Are you really good at communication? And if you're feeling uncertain about this, do you interact with, communicate with people who are nonverbal, who have challenges in how they communicate? I'm confident you're better communicators than you give yourselves credit for. Do you have tremendous empathy for the people you serve and support? Hands up again, let me see them. Head nods, yes. And are you really good at getting creative and coming up with supports and empowering and seeing people that were never supposed to do this thing, do it and way more? Hands up again. Okay, so like everyone in here has raised their hand to what I've outlined: person-centered, communication, empathy, and supports. And if you notice, those are the points we've hit on throughout this talk. Being person-centered with our recruiting, expanding our person-centered mindset to getting person-centered on who do we want to attract. Not just we need more people, that's an incomplete sentence. You need more of the right people, and they are out there, they exist. And it's a lot easier to find them when you're crystal clear on who you're going after. And then when you start to communicate with empathy, you're going to engage people, show people that you are different. And you won't have to fight and compete over a paycheck for people, because everyone is hiring, everyone offers a paycheck. Not everyone offers what you offer. You feel different. It just feels different. That's an emotional thing. It's not a logical decision. They will be drawn to you because of what they hear and what they feel. And then when you show up and support them and show you genuinely care, my God, this place has helped me with my childcare situation. When my car broke down, they helped me out. You know, they came and they picked me up in the middle of a snowstorm, whatever it is. There are tremendous stories out there in this audience of doing things like that. When you help people in that way and support your employees like that, yes, every other employer out there offers a paycheck. Not too many employers out there offer those kind of supports. Could I make 50 cents or a dollar more down the road? Yeah, I could. But thanks, but no thanks. And we've heard that in countless DSP interviews. I lost my job at the factory during the Great Recession, became a DSP. When things turned around, factory called me back up and said, hey, we're going to give you $4 more. Told them, thanks, but no thanks. Talked to somebody who used to work in the baking industry. She's like, I got laid off twice. I learned my lesson, and I just stayed put as a DSP that time they came calling yet again. You're great at all of these things. And if you take action with them, change your mindset, and take this path of creating a DSP cloning machine, creating an anti-ghosting system, and have employee-centered supports, you can achieve even greater things. So what I would ask and encourage all of you to do, this starts in the mind, as we've talked about, thinking beyond that limitation of the McDonald's mindset, because you know it in your hearts. There's more to this work than just the paycheck. You're here for a bigger reason than easy work, and you love documentation and you're going to get rich doing it. You're here for something bigger than that. There are more people out there like you, and if you look for the opportunities, you will find them. But if you keep focused on the limitations, that's all you're going to continue to see. So you're like, I want more of this. I want some actual help. We're working with OPRA right now. We're talking with Scott back there about some upcoming dates for workshops to take you in depth how to do the things that we've talked about high level. The point of today was to show you the path. So what I want you to think about before you leave this room is, maybe the cloning machine is what you need right now. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the anti-ghosting system. Maybe you want to get really employee-centered with the supports that you create for your staff. Please, whichever path you take, commit and take action, because that is the trend we see over and over again working with providers. Some providers are stuck on the hamster wheel, and they are truly stuck, doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for different results, and that sucks. I know it, I've been there too. When we're stressed out, overwhelmed, we often don't make the best decisions. But when we listen and think about and commit to a different approach and take action, good things happen. There's no better example of this than one of our favorite stories. So when we were writing the book, we interviewed our good friend now, John Dickerson, who was an executive director in the ARC for many decades. tried retiring, then came back to this field as an entrepreneur. And John shared this story with us. He said he was invited by a local provider to come see a manufacturing facility where they were doing some really innovative things with community employment. And he was getting to meet some of the people served and learn about what they did for their jobs. And he walked up to this one man, Kevin, and Kevin was going about his job. And he asked Kevin, so what do you like about your work? Head down, make money. Okay, well, money's good. John's trying to engage him. Well, what do you do to make your money? Wood. Okay, so what do you do with wood, Kevin? Stack it. John's trying everything. John is an energizing person, passionate about what he does, really great at drawing people out. And Kevin is just head down, no matter what he throws at him. 1- and 2-word answers, not making eye contact. John decides to try a Hail Mary that a friend had told him will work with strangers maybe 1 out of every 10 times you try it. Hey, Kevin, want to do something here real quick. Could you share with me, is there something that you've always dreamed about doing for your job that you've never shared with anyone? Suddenly, Kevin looks up at John, makes eye contact. It's like, I want to be a radio DJ. Bigger answer, and John's like, grabs hold of it. He's like, that's awesome. Tell me about that. And they talk, and what kind of music do you like? He's not expecting the answer. Hard rock and heavy metal. It's like, all right, Kevin, great. Can you play a little game with me for just a moment? I want you to imagine you are a radio DJ right now. We've just come back from commercial. I want to hear you intro that next song. Kevin pauses for a second, closes his eyes, then opens them up and lets loose with this. Good afternoon, rock and roll fans. This is Kevin. Next up, I've got Aerosmith's Living on the Edge. The same guy was giving 1-word answers a moment ago. John is blown away. He goes over to the people from the provider. And this is the part that I hate. Pit in your stomach time. Tells them, this is what I just heard. You can get him a microphone, like free YouTube channel. He can start to be a radio DJ. He could do some things with your organization. Their answer, no, Kevin's job is to stack wood. Is that why you get up in the morning, come to work, serve the people that you do? So Kevin and others can just stack wood, not achieve their dreams and goals? They sadly were focused on limitations as they saw them and ignored all the opportunities in front of them. So please, I know the limitations are less than ideal, but Craig and I beg you, there are so many opportunities and you have all the advantages as we just showed. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Scott and Craig. Excellent, excellent. Please, let's give them another round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. So box lunches are available in the hallway for you. They should be ready here in about 4 minutes or so. Sessions will start again at 1:20. We intentionally built in some longer breaks into this conference to give you time to check in back at work or home, and also to help you network. So please take full advantage of that. Again, legislative session at 4 o'clock. Rachel and Christine are back in the back room. We won't let them out. They're researching what's going on with the mandates. So we'll have an update on that at 4 o'clock. Then a much needed happy hour at 4:45. So thank you everyone for a great morning. Have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you this afternoon.